oops. And then because of the surveys that are done by the RCD and volunteers, we have a pretty good idea of where the coho spawning occurs. And again, it's not in the main stem, it's in the tributaries. That's what coho like. And so the small black, not the big black dots here are towns. The little tiny black dots are where coho reds were found, the nests where they lay their eggs. And you can see Shackleford Creek's a hot spot there, and French Creek's a hot spot. But Patterson Creek was a very hot spot this year, all the way up to East Fork, South Fork. And so that's why the Water Trust is trying to target those areas for summer rearing, because those coho have to rear through the summer, and we want to get cold water there. I want to walk through the 2009 critically dry scenario, because that was, I mean, we started in 07 right out the bat. We had to do a strong learning curve because 07 was a dry water year, 08 was a dry year, 09 was a critically dry water year, and so it was a stiff learning curve here. Anyways, our definition of critically dry water year type is when we get less than 10 inches of rain at Fort Jones, just here at the Forest Service office, between October 1 and April 1, and in 09 we were just a little bit below that. That triggers all sorts of issues, but we have less water and we have less options available. But we did 7 leases, one in Shackleford Creek and quite a few in French Creek. Just walk through some examples here with 2 leases on the Miners Creek fork of French Creek. One was for started out at 0.3 CFS and went up to 0.5 CFS between August 3rd and September 30th, which is the end of the irrigation season on that decree, and the second one was for 0.25 CFS. These 2 were neighbors. So combined, we got 71.5 acre feet. 1 cubic feet per second per day is 2 acre feet per day for 2.5 miles of in-stream benefit. As you can see on the stream on the right, it's got great habitat. It's got pretty clean gravels. It's got nice riparian cover, and it's just, can we add a little more habitat to help the fish get through the summer? So we had really 3 pairs of leases on French Creek, 2 upper on Miners Creek, 2 middle French Creek, and 2 lower down French Creek at different times. So the total here, I've already mentioned our pricing structure. We have a pricing committee, and we pay more, like supply and demand. We pay more for water in critically dry water year. It's a higher need, supply and demand. And then we had a price incentive for getting neighbors to add, so we can get more distance of benefit. We do monitoring, flow, temperature, fish species. But even with temperature, which I know is a critical part of the TMDL, this is some data that was fascinating that Eric put together on just one day, July 9th of 08, just walking around the lower part of French Creek with doing just a probe, just instantaneous temperature of that 1,500 feet of reach. The temperatures varied from 15.9 degrees centigrade, which is cold and good, and all the way up to 23.5 degrees centigrade in that one reach. So it kind of questioned, well, how do we evaluate the effect of our flows on temperature? Where do we put our hobo temps? How do we measure this when we've got all sorts of influences of incoming shade and inflow and outflow, and it's a very complicated thing. It's very difficult. But so far, our temperature monitoring has just shown we get more of the same cold water. And we only go to cold water streams, but and the fish know where those cold spots are, and that's where they hang out. Fall 2009, the main stem. This was that politically charged fall where the main stem was dry for 20 miles or so, from River Mile 23 to 43. We tried to find a way to get that recharged sooner than later. As you know, the irrigation season has 3 different ending dates under 3 different decrees. In reality, that year, it really ended a lot earlier. People don't push, especially if they, things go dormant, and once the cutting's over, they don't necessarily water again. But everyone's different. But we worked closely on this 2009 with Dr. Harder, who you heard yesterday speak, and that groundwater study plan. And the version 1.0 that the student was working on estimated roughly what it was going to take to recharge the river at that point. And they estimated above Fort Jones it was going to be 350 to 400 acre feet to reconnect the river for 20 miles. So what we did was work with the Scott Valley Irrigation District and leased 400 acre feet at River Mile 46. Until needed, and then we also leased one upstream. There aren't that many surface water diversions in the fall, And anyways, those were the two locations. October 13th, it started raining on top of that, and within one day, the river went from that onto that. It was rather amazing, the distance. With Eric's measurements with pressure transducer below Young's Dam, because there's not a regular gauge there, the river had been accumulating already through up to day 12 there before the rain hit. It had gotten about 100 acre feet. So we were gradually getting there by leasing that water. And then the rain started and it went faster. But as a result of that data, we knew it was 800 acre feet roughly to reconnect the river, which finally connected. Here's the last little reach connecting at 4 p.m. October 15th. Again, luckily in time. There's the gauge going up quickly, and I think Eric talked a bit about this. And it finally connected, I think, about in the middle of the night. The fall Chinook were waiting down at the mouth to come up, and we wanted to get them up here fast, too. The best spawning gravels in the whole Scott River are really in the valley rather than the canyon. And by October 22nd, the surveyors were finding Chinook reds all over the place as far as River Mile 43. Yes, that river would probably have been connected without our lease, but we didn't know if it was going to rain or not. Like I said, in 2001, it didn't rain until December. In 1994, which was my worst case scenario since I've lived here, it didn't rain until January. So we wanted to have an option ready to go to try and help. The Chinook reds are found all through the main stem. Those are the red dots there. So a tally then for the 4 years that we've had so far. The volume of water that we've leased each year is on the left. Usually in the 300 acre foot amount. 2009, there just wasn't much water to be got, but we got what we could, and then the habitat in miles is on the right. So it's 5 to 8 leases. We've averaged on 2 to 3 streams per year. And this is the fall lease summary. In 2010, as you know, we had a much better water year, cool spring, and good snowpack, and especially by May 1. And so we didn't need, the river stayed connected, and fish access was fine when the Chinook came up, and so we did not need to lease last year. So we're not going to spend money if we don't need to. We're also working with Steve Orloff with the Farm Advisor's Office at UC Cooperative Extension to try and find options for landowners, especially on the west side in the small pasture ground, with the work that he's been doing on Tule Lake, trying to apply it, different soil types, different climate over here than Tule Lake, and try and take some of the deficit irrigation studies he's doing. And we can't afford to replace pasture every year if we want to dry it out. You guys know that better than I do. And so we're trying to find a way to get a little more drought-tolerant, deficit-tolerant pasture grass that won't die and will still produce. So there's 3 performing grasses that he felt are really good to try here, and we've got a special grant to try 30 acres of demonstrations at 3 different sites, and we've got 2 of those lined up, and we're waiting for a 3rd case study. Again, case studies have been brought up. That's what we're trying to do too. Our water code 1707, it took us 2 years to get one, just to get instream added to the use, which we want to not have to go through that again. And we're hoping we can work with the Sacramento Division of Water Rights to find a fast-track way to do this as needed and not be so painful. Our funding sources are different each year, and the Bella Vista Foundation's been great because they give you cash up front, and we can pay landowners 25% up front and not have to wait 6 months to pay. And we've had different fiscal sponsors, but now we're our own. So that's our website, scottwatertrust.org. And any questions? Sorry, Rick? Yeah.
How much did you spend in that year? How much did it cost you to put that much water in the creek?
It's varied from year to year. Like I said, the price varies from year to year. It's ranged from $20,000 to $26,000 for summer flows, and then about from $6,000 to $10,000 for fall on top of that.
So how much, if we had a really dry year and there just wasn't water available, and with, the way water pricing, and we had to really scramble to put water in the creek, how much do you think it would cost in a really...
Well, 2009 is that example, and that was our most expensive year because we paid more. So it was about $26,000 for the summer, and I think about $10,000 for this fall.
And so that one picture you
It was flowing, yeah. Connected,
Not
yeah.
that much water is basically what the point is.
That was 800 acre feet out of 100,000 acre feet. That is totally, agricultural use. So we're talking 1%, and that's where we're trying to get, working with the groundwater model to try to understand how much tweaking do we need in the system. I mean, even just did a rough seat of the pants without a fancy model, there was still standing water in those pools in 2009. So if you add 1 foot higher than that just to get connected across the stream bed floor, 200 feet wide on the average and 20 miles long, that was 500 acre feet. So the model was right there, and that's what it turned out, 800 acre feet. It was pretty close. You get an order of magnitude with your model that quickly of what actually happened. So
how much is that in equivalency of attorney hours? How many attorney hours could
Thank you. That's a very good question. And also, I wanted to add, there's, $300 an hour up. We don't. That's a whole different world. And I do want to say that we probably have about $30,000 just last year alone in volunteer time with my board and advisory committee time and my time that don't get compensated just to get this going. So, Felice.
Sari, you had the Fish and Wildlife Foundation up there. I was wondering, is that specific for mitigation money?
This year it will be. We've had different pots of money through National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, which is.
The second two funders we had, fish and game?
No fish and game money. No fish and game money. Uh-huh. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you.